If you're ready to face the fear, keep your lights on and your doors locked, because these 8 true creepy tales will have you second-guessing every shadow you see. Before we begin, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you won't miss any spine-tingling stories from this channel. Story 1, The Haunted House. First, let me tell you about Sarah, who moved into an old house in the middle of nowhere. The kind of place where people rarely drive by, and the trees grow tall enough to block out the sun. She thought she'd found the perfect home, until the strange noises started. Late at night, she'd hear heavy footsteps in the attic, or was it something worse? One evening, Sarah decided to confront the source of the noise. With a flashlight in hand, she ventured into the attic. But when she climbed the stairs, she found something unexpected, a series of old, dusty mirrors. The strange part? They were positioned to face each other, creating an endless reflection. But one mirror didn't reflect anything at all. As she moved closer, she swore she saw something behind her in the reflection, but when she turned around, there was nothing there. That was just the beginning of Sarah's nightmare. Story 2, The Shadow in the Window. Next, we have Tom, a night shift worker who lived alone in an apartment complex. He never believed in ghosts, but that changed one cold December night. He noticed a strange figure in his window, just standing there, motionless. It was a silhouette, but it didn't belong to anyone he knew. Tom thought it was just his tired eyes playing tricks, but it happened every night, at the same time. One evening, determined to confront this mystery, he grabbed a flashlight and opened his window. But when he shined the light out, there was no one there. He was about to close the window when he heard a voice whisper from behind him. "You shouldn't have looked." Story 3, The Abandoned Hospital. Have you ever heard of the old St. Mary's Hospital? It was shut down years ago after reports of strange happenings and mysterious disappearances. Well, David thought he could handle it. A group of friends dared him to sneak into the hospital one night to get a selfie. But as they wandered through the dark hallways, they realized something wasn't right. The lights flickered, and the air felt colder than it should. Suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. When David turned around, no one was there. They tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. And that's when the voices started, murmuring in the corners of the room, whispering their names. It was as though the hospital was alive, and waiting for them. Story 4, The Lost Camper. Let's move on to Ben, a seasoned camper who had been hiking in the Cumberland forest for years. He was no stranger to the woods, but one night, something felt different. He set up camp by a creek, a peaceful place by all standards. But as he sat by the fire, he saw something moving in the distance, something that didn't belong. As the figure got closer, Ben froze, staring into the eyes of a man he had never seen before. The stranger didn't speak, only gestured for Ben to follow. Against his better judgment, Ben stood up, leaving his campfire behind. The figure led him deeper into the forest, where the trees closed in around them. That's when Ben heard a whisper. "You shouldn't have followed me." As Ben tried to turn around, he realized the path had disappeared. The figure was gone, and Ben was lost in a place that seemed to change with every step. Story 5, The Dollhouse. Story 5, The Dollhouse. Now, we have Emily, a young girl who found a dollhouse in the attic of her new home. The dollhouse looked eerily realistic, with every room and detail replicated. At first, Emily thought it was just a fun toy, until she noticed that the dolls in the house seemed to move. She would find them in different positions every time she visited the attic. One evening, as she entered the attic to check, she froze. The dolls were standing, facing her, in a perfect line. And one of them was holding a tiny note that read, "We want to play." Emily was terrified, but something drew her closer to the dolls. As she reached out to touch one, a voice echoed from behind her. "You shouldn't have played with us." Story 6, The Vanishing Hitchhiker. Have you ever picked up a hitchhiker in the rain? Well, Jake did. One rainy night, he saw a girl on the side of the road, drenched and cold. He stopped to offer her a ride, and she climbed in. She looked tired but friendly. As they drove, she told Jake about a party she had been at, and how her car broke down. After a while, she asked to be dropped off at an old house down the road. But when Jake pulled over to let her out, she was gone. No trace of her anywhere. Jake was confused, and as he drove away, he noticed something strange, a picture of the girl, from the exact same house she had just been dropped off at, on the dashboard of his car. He never stopped again. Story 7, The Cursed Watch. Mark found an old pocket watch at a yard sale. It was an antique, but something about it called to him. He bought it without a second thought. Afterward, strange things began happening. His clock would stop at the same time every night. He'd wake up to hear the ticking, loud and insistent, but when he checked his watch, the time was always frozen. One night, he took the watch to a jeweler to have it fixed, but when the jeweler opened the back, he found something inside that shouldn't have been there, hair, and a piece of paper with a single word written on it. Help. The watch had been passed down through generations, each owner meeting a grim fate. And now, it was Mark's turn. Story 8, The Mirror. Finally, let's talk about Lily, who found a beautiful old mirror at a flea market. She wasn't sure why she bought it, but the antique piece seemed to call to her. At night, she'd notice strange things in the reflection, faint movements, shadows that didn't belong to her. But one night, as she stared into the mirror, something horrifying happened. She saw a figure behind her, someone who wasn't there. A pale woman with hollow eyes. When Lily turned around, there was no one there. She tried to cover the mirror, but it seemed to have a life of its own. Every time she turned her back, the woman in the reflection would appear closer. It was as though the mirror was calling her to join it. There you have it. 8 true creepy tales that will keep you on edge long after the video ends. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, these stories are enough to make anyone think twice about the shadows that follow them. If you enjoyed these haunting tales, don't forget to like, comment, and share with friends who dare to listen. And if you have a terrifying story of your own, leave it in the comments below. We might just feature it in our next video. Until next time, stay safe, stay alert, and never forget, something might be watching you from the dark.